What is the gold standard? In a perfect world at an event, what are your dream features?
I think it's just that it's really been thought through. So like it's the translation and the live captioning or having sign language in there. It's the use of the fact that it's recorded. So then obviously people who may not be able to digest all that information all in one go, they can come. It's the fact that they're not segregated. So it's the fact that it's mixed in as an inclusive event. So it doesn't feel like, well, we've just put them all over here, people with disabilities, because they need to be separate. It's the fact that it feels like it's just part of the event. So that to me is where it warms my heart, because I just think, well, this is fully inclusive, it's accessible for all, and that's what it looks like. And that's what I love about an event. And it's probably, I would also say, back to the point that you made, that the questions were asked. Is there anything I can feel? So that individual that you had on your panel, they will go away feeling like the person you genuinely cared. You cared about me being there and bringing my whole self and making sure I felt comfortable. And that's so important.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to our Q3 Partner Town Hall. I am super excited for today's call, and we got a lot of things to get through, and I think we got our largest cast of presenters. So, with time in mind, let me introduce who I have here with me today. Firstly, in order, I'm going to introduce Stephen Cutchins from our product team. He's going to join us, and welcome, Stephen, to our first webinar with our partners.
Thank you.
We also have Tony Ansalaco, who is manager of our customer success team. Welcome, Tony. And then a couple of familiar faces, Denise Sutter, who runs partner marketing, and Lauren Turner, who heads up our partner training and enablement. Welcome, everyone.
Thanks, Scott.
All right. So with that, let's review the agenda. So I'm going to do a couple of updates, talk about some trends, and then what I'm going to do is hand things over to Stephen. And he's going to cover a really important topic, and that is accessibility. And, we met internally after Stephen presented to our team, and we felt that it was so important what Stephen shared with us that we wanted to make sure we got this in front of our partners. After Stephen, Tony, who is going to talk about another hot topic, sustainability. Then Denise will dive in to our marketing mashup, and Lauren will then provide some valuable updates on our training and enablement and other things that we're doing for our partners. As always, submit questions through the Q&A console or put things in the chat. A lot of times we might just answer questions as we go, or if there is questions at the end, we have some time, we'll take some then. So remember to look at the engagement console. There may even be a couple of polls along the way. Okay, so what a busy summer and Q3 it's been. We're seeing a lot of activity in our industry around acquisitions, mergers, and this is all really driven by the fact that in-person events really are back with a vengeance. This was really noticeable for us when so many partners, so many of you made your way to attend Cvent Connect Vegas in July. Can't believe that was 2 months ago. Not only an amazing event, but also the largest event ever attended by our partners, which kicked off on the Monday with our Partner Summit. Now, some of you who have been each year, or in other years will have known we do some content around our partners. But what we did differently this year was having a full day of content for our partners, where we literally had standing room only and spent the entire day just focusing on our partners, sharing our go-to-market strategy so our partners could understand how we go to market with our clients, but also having valuable discussions around how we can work together, how we can help our partners grow, how we can strengthen their value to your clients, and share best practices. It was such an amazing week with so many of you, and the feedback we got was amazing that we're already planning our next US Partner Summit. So please continue to tell us what you want to hear about and talk about. So that then leads me to Cvent Connect Europe, where we'll also be having a partner summit. Now, what's exciting about this as well is we're doing it at a different location. It's now going to be at the Hilton London Metropole. It's November 7th to 9th. So for a lot of people on the call, if you're in Europe, or if you've got some of your colleagues in Europe, we got a lot of exciting items and events happening through that week, starting on the 7th with some training camps. And I believe Lauren may even share a bit more on it, but I believe we've got training camps just for our third parties at Connect Europe. And then on the 8th, we got a lot of content, keynote speaker, Reggie, roadmap sessions. And then on the 9th, we're doing our partner summit, again, just for our partners, EU focused, and we're working through a lot of that content right now. So if you or your team have any topics that you would like to bring forward, please let us know, and we look forward to seeing you there. Okay, I mentioned I was also going to talk about some trends and some sourcing, and this is a section or an area we constantly get asked for. So what I'm going to do is share a few of the trends, some sourcing data, and then some registration data. So we did a survey. You might have seen this before. We did a survey with North Star. We did this a couple of months ago, and some really, really positive indicators. Organizations are really looking at adding new events with increased budget going into the future. What we find really interesting, and likely your organizations are seeing the same, is that 37% of responses say that adding staff. Now, we discussed in the Partner Summit at Connect that what we want to make sure is your clients see the value of working with their third parties and don't replace them with in-house staff. So let us know what we can do to continue to support you through your differentiation to your clients. It's also exciting to see that planners are embracing AI. You know, it's interesting what I heard the other day. Somebody said in an internal call that AI won't replace people, but people that use AI will replace people that don't. So I know Cvent's been doing quite a bit around AI, and likely on our next town hall, we'll look at talking through some of the AI stuff and how you can leverage that not only on the Cvent platform, but other tools that are out there. All right, let's get into some sourcing data. So the data you see here is we're comparing room nights sourced to the same months in 2019. So for instance, on the far left in yellow, we're comparing January 2020 to January 2019. Blue represents months we were below 2019, and the yellow represents months where we're ahead of 2019. So you can tell that it wasn't really until August of 2022, nearly 2.5 years from the beginning of the pandemic, that we've consistently seen positive growth in room night source. This continues to support the comment that in-person events are back. And, you know, being that these are room nights that are being sourced, these aren't just local events. To further investigate this trend, we also looked at one of our leading indicators, like booking window and pace, which gives you a sense of future arrival dates when compared against 2019. Now, although both the charts look quite similar in a good way, our forward-looking visibility for group business has returned to similar levels as it was in 2019. In fact, it's only become slightly better for years 2 and 3 for out-year business. All right, so where are people sourcing? What are people considering for locations? Well, you can see it's all over the map. A lot of us would have expected higher volumes from planners sourcing in region for their region, but that's not necessarily the case. Planners are sourcing locations all over the country, and as you can see here, the Southeast getting a larger share proportionally. Now, when it comes to comparing this with our top destinations list that we launched in May, I know that the Southwest, so Dallas, Austin, Phoenix, were neck and neck with the Southeast, Orlando, Nashville, and Atlanta. What about sourcing internationally? Well, from an international perspective, you can see the volumes have come back strong, and this is from US planners looking to go international, but some big numbers there. Talking of which, and this is really interesting, is that the most growth is outside of North America, right? Almost double in Australia and Oceania, and almost 5 times the volume growth of room nights in Asia. And then the other thing that we track is, are people sourcing just for one area, or are they looking in many areas on the same RFP? So single destination RFPs continue to be the majority of requests. However, we are totally seeing a number of increased RFPs that are looking at 2 or more areas. All right, so that's it from a sourcing perspective, but what does that translate into for volume of events, volume of registrations? Well, we all know lots changed in the last 3 years, and one of the most visible and prominent change is the kind of arrival of what we think of as the triple threat: in-person, hybrid, and virtual events. 3 years ago, it was mostly in-person events. Then it went to be virtual during the pandemic, and now it's looking a lot more diverse. Okay, in the beginning or middle of 2020, as I said, virtual, that started to become part of that event program when the in-person had declined. But now with the return of in-person events, kind of in the middle of 2021, something interesting has happened. Hybrid events started to promote attendee presence on site, as well as digital footprints for attendees who couldn't travel, who were not able to travel. So as event planners, it looks like a different world in more ways than one. You now have to engage audiences across all formats and make sure you've got the right technology to support clients based on their event format needs. Here you will see, again, that a lot has changed, and this is one of the most visible, prominent changes, the arrival of that triple threat that I mentioned. Now, what you can see here is based on industry segment, you're able to see the average registrations per event versus 2019 have actually gone up. So compared to 2019, the numbers are up, but if you look compared to 2022, some of the numbers have gone down, and that was likely because they were doing a lot more virtual. So now if you look at size of events, right, what you're seeing here is that based on the different industries and the different segments that we track, a lot of organizations are doing less events, but even more are doing more events, okay? And the smallest number of all is people who are just keeping it stagnant across the board and keeping their numbers at the same events, which there you can see for a lot of industries is single digits. This is interesting data here because this really talks about, 85% of all events have an in-person segment, while 43% of the programs only have in-person. So one thing that's really clear is that in-person is really the core around how the entire programs are constructed, which you're likely seeing with your clients. So this is all happening despite inflation, tighter budgets, other factors. And 10% of clients' programs are leveraging all. So a combination of in-person, fully virtual, and then also hybrid. So, one of the things we talked about in the Partner Summit was how critical it is to ensuring a successful event program. We'll never argue the importance of in-person. There's a large opportunity with the ability to leverage virtual and hybrid. And that's why we see a great opportunity for our partners. Because as you can see, a lot of verticals have been leveraging hybrid events, as well as the other types, but this is something we wouldn't have seen in 2019. So a lot of data there. Again, if you have any questions, put them in the chat, or if there's specific data you're looking for, please let us know. With that, I'm going to move on to what I'm thinking of is the hot topic. No offense to the other presenters here, but the hot topic of this meeting, and that's accessibility. Stephen, such a great pleasure to have you join us today. I'm going to pass things over to you to educate us all.
Thanks, Scott. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak to everybody today. Hello, everyone. I'm Stephen Cutchos, the Senior Manager for Accessibility here at Cvent. I'm going to give you guys a bit of a data dump around accessibility, hopefully point out some things that may be of interest to you and to your clients. I want to give a higher level overview of what we're doing, not really dig too much into the technical details. I'm doing this because I found that companies want to do business with like-minded companies like us that are trying to do the right thing. And that's what I want to focus on. I found that people are extremely interested in hearing about our overall accessibility journey, and I hope you are also. So people with disabilities, globally, it's about 16% of the population. That's about 1.3 billion people. It's a lot of attendees. It's a pretty massive number. In the US, it's a little bit higher percentage-wise. It's actually about 26% of adults have some form of a disability. That means that 1 in 6, or roughly a quarter of the people who could walk there, 1 in 4 in the US, roughly a quarter of people that could walk through the doors of an event could have a disability. Legal mandates. Might as well get this out of the way since legal is one of those things I both love to and hate to talk about. I say this because I feel like what I do, accessibility, is the right thing to do, but there are also some legal implications for not doing it or if we get it wrong. So ADA, or Americans with Disabilities Act, ADA Title III. Title III prohibits discrimination on the basis of disability in places of public accommodations that are generally open to the public. Think hotels, event spaces, they're all covered by ADA laws. The Department of Justice, U.S. Department of Justice, has consistently taken the position that the ADA's requirements apply to all the goods, services, privileges, or activities offered by public accommodations, including those offered on the web. In other words, if your facilities are open to the public, then ADA law states that your web content must be accessible to people with disabilities. Of the top 10 industries receiving the most accessibility lawsuits, higher ed is 4, travel hospitality is 5, entertainment and leisure is 7. Apparently, higher ed isn't aware of ADA requirements because the U.S. Department of Justice and the U.S. Department of Education recently issued what they call a Dear Colleague letter stating this, and specifically called out third-party online platforms and conferences. This means that the U.S. Department of Justice essentially isn't happy with the lack of accessibility, and they called out conferences. So this may be something your clients want to know about. Speaking of lawsuits, did you know there were ADA lawsuits brought against Hilton, Marriott, and Disney, and all of those also covered websites, electronic content. This isn't just US either. This is kind of hot off the presses, exciting stuff. Remember GDPR from a few years ago and how software companies had to react quickly? The European Accessibility Act may have a similar impact on accessibility, and that it mandates accessible software, digital services, and hardware by June 2025. That's 2 years. Your European clients may need to know about this. It's only a couple of years away. It will be legally binding for their event websites to be accessible. Luckily, Cvent, we've had this accessibility program in place for about 2 years now, so I think we're in a pretty good place. Very quickly about that accessibility program. Some key things to note here are that we do have a dedicated accessibility role, me, which I believe is the only one in the industry. I can't find another one. We've purchased about 800 licenses a year for accessibility training. We have a pretty strong commitment, clearly. I have at least on a weekly call, if not daily call, calls with clients around accessibility. We've given webinars, blog posts, and interviews around Global Accessibility Awareness Day. We have an accessibility task force, an accessibility guild, an accessibility leadership group. Pretty strong commitment. We know we need to be compliant and we need to push accessibility, but how do we let our clients know what level we're at? That's done through a thing called a VPAT. Software companies state their level of compliance through this VPAT or VPAT, Voluntary Product Accessibility Template. Also called an ACR or Accessibility Conformance Report. But honestly, if a client comes to you and says, hey, is Cvent software accessible? They're probably going to ask for a VPAT. It's often mandatory. Clients like higher ed mandated, they won't even sign the contract, period, if we don't provide them a VPAT. We're now seeing it a lot with higher ed, nonprofit, even government, and even large enterprise now is mandating it. And they are created per product and specifically for client client delivery. They're publicly available. And excuse me, these are the VPATs we have so far. We've knocked out about 7 of them now. We do have one for interactive floor plans. If you notice, most of these are we call Event Cloud, Attendee Hub, registration, Attendee Hub mobile. We do have one for interactive floor plans. It was requested by a client, a hospitality client, as a result of a lawsuit. It wasn't against us, it was against them. But still, if any of your clients need it for Hospitality Cloud, we'll gladly get them a VPAT. It does take about 3 or 4 months to get, though. We're knocking out about, we should mention, we do these through an independent third-party firm. So when it says we're accessible or we're not, or we're somewhere in between, it's them, not us. So we're fully transparent about it. And it seems to be, we're knocking out about 2 to 4 about every 6 months. So, in the 4 to 8 a year range. So I mentioned VPATs, or those voluntary product accessibility templates. I mandated that they're often mandatory. Higher ed, non-prof, large enterprise, so pop quiz. I hope you were at Cvent Connect. Reggie mentioned that there are about 1,400 software companies in our space. 1,400. How many of them do not have VPATs? Please put your guesses in the chat. I do want to check these. 1,400 companies. VPATs are mandatory for certain clients. How many do not have VPATs? Please answer. I'm really curious. How many do not? 1,399. So mandatory, fully transparent. We're audited by a third-party software. We are the only, from what we can find, the only company in the event software space that's been audited for accessibility. That's it. 1,399 have not. So I'm going to ask you a question. Do you think your client should know about this? Do you think this is in any way, shape, or form a differentiator of why they should use Cvent software? And it's kind of nice that, as you can see here, we are being recognized for our efforts around accessibility. We've had some great interviews. We've given some training, had some nice articles written out about us. We've won a couple of awards. We've won Meetings Net Trendsetters. Meetings Net Change Makers, Meetings Today Trendsetters. So we're in pretty good company. This is a quote from one of those awards. This is Meetings Today saying that this is a welcome sign that the industry is placing a priority on serving the needs of many who were left out of the conversation. This is Meetings Today telling our industry that we need to focus more on people with disabilities, and that right now, Cvent is the one that is doing it best. Here's some feedback from an accessibility conference that used Cvent's products. This is the largest assistive technology conference in the world. I took this picture myself at the conference, and in the middle there, in the hat, that is Stevie Wonder. He attends as an attendee because he needs this technology for himself, given that he's blind. He needs screen readers, he needs braille displays. This client said, and I quote, "There are no issues to report," when they were talking about our software. I think given the audience, I think that's a pretty good, no issues was made me very happy. Here's another one. This is feedback from National Federation of the Blind. National Federation of the Blind. Their feedback was, there isn't a great deal to report, and meaning the platforms are in, and I quote, pretty good shape. I think pretty good shape from National Federation of Blind is really good. So watch this space, some cool stuff coming. We're gonna have some knowledge-based articles, some training to make all of your jobs easier, go a little more into the technical, how to do this. I hope you found this little accessibility talk insightful, hopefully a little bit motivating. I'm super passionate about what I do. I absolutely love it. We have a great team here. I hope you have some good things to discuss with your clients. I thank you for your time. And now over to Tony. He's going to talk about sustainability here at Cvent.
Thanks, Stephen. Hello, my name is Tony Insalaco, Manager of Client Success, overseeing agency partnerships and venue sourcing at Cvent. For today's conversation, I'll be focusing on sustainability and its relation to the event management ecosystem. Environmental considerations were once seen as a tangential piece of the economic equation, but issues such as climate risk, water scarcity, extreme temperatures, and carbon emissions are now threatening to dampen growth. And so, it's no surprise that with both environmental and financial factors at risk, many organizations are recognizing the need to adjust the potential risks that impact their business practices. Through increasing awareness of potential risks, Cvent recognizes the shift in priorities and in many organizations towards environmental consciousness so that we can build a more sustainable future. In this presentation, I'll cover the industry assessment and how Cvent has provided resources for your organization to support your own initiatives or the clients you serve. It's clear that while companies are starting to set goals for themselves at a corporate level, departmental targets are lagging. According to data source from the Journey to More Sustainable Corporate Travel and Meetings Management Programs, a study done with GBTA and Cvent, over half of organizations surveyed do have a company-wide carbon emissions reduction target, but only 23% have a specific target for business travel. And an even smaller group of 9% have a target for company-hosted meetings and events. As you assess your own organization, consider where you might fit in your own targets. In tandem, are these conversations you're having with your end clients? Do they have targets for sustainable practices? As we review the data from the survey, we can fit an organization's sustainability efforts into one of three buckets. At level one, an organization may not have any practices in place. They adhere to whatever their department asks them in terms of event planning and management, regardless of the underlying environmental impacts. In tandem, their planning arm of an organization may not be aware of a higher up sustainable policy. At level two, we're taking action. We have practices in place to ensure sustainable business practices are put into place. There may be across the entire event lifecycle or segmented based on a competency or department. Perhaps travel is an area of focus. However, as we saw in the previous slide, company-hosted events do not have a mandate. This could include the venue sourcing, day of practices, etc. Also, considering level three, we may be able to measure the success of a single event, but the prospect is daunting. This leads us to the final maturity level. At level three, we have a standard sustainability charter at our organization. We've mandated practices across the board, and we're also measuring these outcomes. This is the display of what's happening across our events and the impact we're making as a sustainable organization. We can report to our stakeholders the change we put into place and demonstrate the value we bring to our clients. Now, reflecting on the maturity levels covered in the previous slide, take a moment to reflect on your own organization's sustainability efforts. What level would closely describe your current state? So take a moment to address the anonymous poll and we'll share the results. Now let's take a few moments to look at what Cvent has done to support partner accounts in their sustainable practices. As you review, consider how these might be instituted in the organizations you support. Within meeting registration and workflow processes, the platform allows for greater visibility into what types of meetings and events are being requested. Tracking the formatting for locality, whether it be virtual, in-person, or hybrid, and inputting an initial step in the MRF to understand what sustainable practices are being put by the planner. Are they offering a hybrid option to cut back on travel? Are they instituting budget tracking to understand the impacts implementing green practices have on overall costs? You can also consider approvals in the process. Allow your main decision makers oversight and approval into meetings that may or may not have sustainable against your mandate. Now with venue sourcing, this is where you can provide a lot of oversight and add efficiency to your sustainable mandates. Sourcing is a key component to planning sustainable meetings that are happening live. Using the CSN search to prioritize sustainable venues and report on how many of them you've awarded business. You can also use CSN to change behavior. Set up policies that require planners to send the RFP to sustainable venues and conduct virtual site visits whenever possible. A simple step is setting up a supplier category that groups search criteria by sustainable venues. A venue will typically have their sustainable efforts listed in their venue profile, so consider this as you organize your program. And lastly, consider the on-site experience. You're not alone in the sustainability journey. Your attendees are in it with you. Not only may an organization be concerned with their own practices in this space, but your attendees may be diligent in their own efforts to keep their carbon footprint low. Through attendee management, you can apply various methods that include, but are not limited to, tracking of attendee travel, reporting on emissions more accurately if you understand where your attendees are coming to and going, and including a virtual option. Reduction in carbon footprint includes offering a hybrid experience, cutting back on travel and on-site expenses. And badging options. Consider eco-friendly badging and printing practices. And finally, avoidance of food and resource waste. Get an accurate count and track the attendance of your registrants for a more accurate F&B estimate. As mentioned before, it is one thing to place policies and procedures in place, but taking that step to report out on the actions brings you sustainable program full circle. As a first step, consider what reporting is potentially lacking in your organization or in partnership with an end client. What report are they currently lacking? Formulate what data is needed and look to institute a program-wide behaviors to gain visibility. An ideal tool would be that one that allows to collect both event level and cross-event details across your entire program. This, coupled with larger data for the effort at your organization. Can you provide the entire scope of what you're doing to combat carbon emissions? Some examples of reporting on Cvent include RFP award rates for eco-friendly venues and spend and savings with the event overall and in partnership with eco-friendly practices. In tandem, what costs were potentially saved by instituting these practices? Listed on the right-hand side are various partner providers Cvent recommends to help tabulate event and program-wide practices. Now, let's take a look at an organization that identified the need for implementing sustainable business practices in their approach. This organization sought the need to minimize the carbon impact of their events program. At the time, they were fairly new to the assessment of data surrounding meetings and events, but in preparation, were able to determine that they could potentially save costs and carbon footprint by instituting a program. Part of their approach centered around adding on additional steps and measures for addressing the reduction in that carbon footprint. This included adding in virtual events when applicable, application of surveys to gather details on how the registrants made it to the event. Given the approach to travel, they instituted a decision tree on travel to put opportunity for travel mitigation front of mind for planners determining when travel is absolutely necessary. The results were pretty astounding. They saw an annual cost avoidance of upwards of 3 million, reduced up to 3,300 tons in annual carbon footprint, and 58 million fewer air miles. Now, if you're interested in discussing how you could implement sustainable practices in your meetings and event program, or help with your end clients in supporting their business practices, your account team at Cvent would love to connect with you. Reach out to discuss further. And now with marketing updates, here's Denise.
Awesome. Thank you, Tony. So this marketing mashup section is going to be short and sweet, but I'm very excited to share some of these updates with all of you. So first up, I'm excited to announce that we have a brand new user group in community tailored for third-party planners. Now, hopefully many of you are familiar and active in Cvent community, but for those who may be new or need a refresher, Cvent community is going to be your North Star for all things to help with your product knowledge. So this is where you can access our knowledge base, which includes helpful how-to articles on all of our solutions. You can get information on training and certification. You can join various forums to ask product-specific questions. And now we've got a brand new user group tailored to support all of you in the unique ways in which you leverage the platform to support your customers and their events. So I want to give a quick shout out and a huge thank you to our new user group leader, Tori Martinez with Direct Travel. Tori works remotely out of Colorado Springs and has been in the industry for over 8 years. She's a Cvent guru, and we're so lucky to have her in helping to facilitate discussion and engagement across this growing community. So if you're sitting on this call and you're looking to join a group with your peers, whether it's to brainstorm new ideas, maybe you have a unique product use case, or you need advice on how to better leverage the platform, this is going to be the place for you. I'll drop the link in the chat for anyone who's interested in learning more, but don't be shy. This group was created to help bring all of you together to collaborate, network, and hopefully learn from one another. So speaking of new things taking place in Cvent community, so this is a huge announcement that took place during Cvent Connect a few weeks ago. But we know how important it is for all of you to stay ahead of product releases. So we wanted to do a quick recap. We've now consolidated the place where you can go to receive all product release information and get visibility into forward-looking roadmap items. So this all lives in Cvent Community now. So you can either pull out your phones, turn on your camera, and leverage the QR code here, or you can visit Community homepage, go to resources, product news, and then you can subscribe to the specific products you want to receive emails on. Don't worry, we're not going to spam you with a ton of different emails to your inbox. Release emails are sent approximately 2 times per month if and when there are new updates. So for those of you who are working in the platform and building out events on behalf of customers, I'd highly recommend subscribing to these updates so you can stay informed and really help guide customers on taking advantage of these new features. So with that, I'm going to pass it over to Lauren to talk through some partner enablement updates.
Thank you so much, Denise. All right, I am here and apparently unintentionally color coordinated with our slide deck. Hopefully you all have stuck it out to the end because we have some really exciting stuff to cover over the next few slides. So we're going to start out with a couple of new resources that have been added exclusively for our partners. The first is Data-Driven Event Success, which is actually an entirely new catalog of resources that we've made available. If you did join us at Partner Summit and attended the more sales and marketing focused portion, this was introduced there. The goal of all of this content is to help you create efficiencies, identify new areas of opportunity, and ultimately basically help you grow your business. We explain how Cvent has found success in our own go-to-market strategies, how to maximize the concept of event types, which is actually the cornerstone of how our own event management team operates now. Help you identify ways to find new opportunities within your own customer base, and then also guide you in how to broach those conversations. So definitely take a look at that, particularly if you are involved in sales, account management, business development, or marketing for your agency. The second are new practice scenarios by event type. Now, if you were an athlete, you wouldn't attempt the first back handspring or swing for a home run during a big match or game, right? You want to practice and perfect your skills. And that is what these guides are allowing you to do within Cvent and using our software and our technology. All of the different guides are organized by event type and include a variety of scenarios. So you can use the right one that makes the most sense for you. And it's really intended for new users or maybe new to this event type users to walk through the event creation process step by step to make sure that they're absolutely confident in what needs to be done before they're actually taking on a customer event. Now, our roadmap webinars cover a lot of exciting content, but Q3 had some really juicy updates like the new badge designer and some audience segmentation enhancements that I know a lot of you have been asking for. That session, if you did miss it, which I think a lot of you did, is available on demand, but we definitely don't want you to miss the Q4 sessions. So we have a quarterly product update on October 10th, followed by the Q4 roadmap webinar, which is exclusively available to partners on November 16th. Obviously, follow along with those different product update releases that Denise mentioned to really kind of keep tabs, but this will summarize everything, and then the roadmap gives you that look ahead. So I know a lot of you were really excited about what was presented during the roadmap at Connect, and you've asked for more direct release visibility. So this is giving you exactly what you asked for. So make sure your teams are attending these and getting those updates. It's really difficult to sell or execute effectively in the product if you don't know all the latest of what's going on. Now, would any of you like to be rewarded just for taking training that would help your career? I can't imagine anybody said no. So good news, we're offering exactly that. We are really excited that exclusively for our partners, we're offering the opportunity to win a $5,000 dream vacation to a destination of your choosing just for completing trainings in Cvent Academy. Each course completed from September 1st through the end of January is an entry into a drawing that will take place February of next year. So I know a lot of you have downtime towards the end of the year. You can really make the most of it. and there's the potential to earn this. We will link to a document that has a little bit more of the details in the chat, so you can take a look at that there as well. And if you do have some team members, or if you prefer to train in person, we have good news on that front as well. Back by popular demand, we have our regional training workshops. They are returning this fall. These are in-person, hands-on learning experiences, the opportunity to actually learn and work directly within your own account and be led by Cvent's expert product trainers. We're going to host 2 days of training at a few of our different office locations, our headquarter office in Tyson's Corner, one in LA, and one in Austin, Texas as well. And we're covering 3 of our most popular training courses. Event creation for new users, which is really geared more toward that onboarding process, as well as build engaging and captivating event websites, and optimize event data and reporting with access portals. You can sign up for all 3 if you'd like, or pick and choose whatever meets your needs, what makes sense for where you are in terms of your Cvent knowledge foundation. Normally, these would actually range from anywhere from $300 to $800, but just for this fall, we're actually offering these free to all of our partners and customers. If you cannot join us this fall, definitely we would love to hear from you, what city you're in, what you're interested in learning about. Although next year, I don't know if we can promise they'll be complimentary, so if you can, please come and join us this fall. Now, I also want to provide a quick reminder to all of you partners that we are nearing the end of the year. So basically, you have until the end of 2023 to hit your revenue and certification targets for the 2024 partner program calendar year. So as a reminder, we do pull all of those in January. So if you're not sure where you stand currently, reach out to your account manager. They can pull the numbers for you. There are revenue tiers as well as certification requirements. And if you did not remember this, certification, it does require it to be re-upped basically every 24 months with all of the enhancements that we have coming out to the product. So even if you met the requirements as of this January, definitely make sure that none of your team members need to recertify, or if you need new team members that have come on board, make sure that they have the certifications you need to meet those same requirements in 2024, or to move up to the next tier if maybe you didn't hit the one that you were hoping for 2023. Also, a reminder, if your agreement is up for renewal between now until the end of the year, the value of that contract will count towards that revenue tier. I imagine a lot of you may have that question if you're kind of working through that. And then by way of talking about the partner program, we want to make sure that none of you missed the announcement on 2 exciting new benefits. So we mentioned this at Partner Summit, but if you missed Partner Summit, or if everything else that you heard about Connect kind of moved this out of your brain, we want to make sure that this didn't pass you by. So the first new benefit is for our Gold and Platinum partners, and that is in-kind events. What this does is allows you to host an employee or customer-facing event, essentially on Cvent's dime, up to those different dollar thresholds that you see on the screen right now. The intent being is that if you're showcasing Cvent for this event type, we really want to help you do so, both financially and then also by putting in the request, we can kind of give these events a little bit of extra attention to ensure that everything goes smoothly. All of those amounts can be used toward Cvent software, no services, but really any Cvent software. And the submission form is available in the partner portal now. So we've already had a number of requests come in. Continue to submit those for any events that you have coming up that would be applicable. And then the second benefit is exclusively for our Platinum partners, and those are product insight sessions. So this offers our Platinum partners the ability to have a formal one-on-one session with senior Cvent product and user research managers to really ensure that we understand your unique needs, the needs that your customers are asking you for in working with our technology, so that we can discuss ways that Cvent is or could maybe be better addressing those needs and supporting you in doing so. You should start to have invitations or conversations with your account team, or they may start to send you the intake forms if you are eligible for this in early to mid Q4. And then we're going to look to begin scheduling sessions at the start of the year with all of our product leaders. And as always, if there's something missing, we've covered some really important topics today with accessibility and sustainability. I know we've got some courses in Academy as well and more to come, but if there's something that you need or that you're missing, please feel free to reach out. We are starting to plan now, especially for all of the content that we'll be developing throughout 2024, and we want to make sure that we're providing everything that you're looking for. So definitely reach out if there's anything that we can help you with, or if it's just coordinating a training plan for your team using the content that we have right now. And in addition to that feedback, one more feedback request for you. Please complete the post-event feedback survey for this webinar. Let us know how it went. You should see the prompt should be kind of top right on your screen. Let us know what you'd like to hear about in future webinars, topic suggestions. Do you have something that you're interested in presenting? We would love to hear it. So looking at Q&A, I think we've had a few questions come through that we have been able to address. If you have any more, go ahead and submit them. We can try to cover before we kind of wrap things up here. In the meantime, we do have a handful of upcoming webinars that I think would be really interesting for you all to attend. The peek behind the curtain. Customers and partners are always very curious. It's sort of like a virtual version of the tech tours that we have at Cvent Connect. So definitely check that out. And I think with that, I don't see any unanswered questions, so we can close things out here. Thank you all so much for joining us. I think we'll be back for one more of these this year, and we hope to see you then as well. Thanks so much, everybody.